All right. Welcome to Incredibelle Conversations with me, your host, Isabelle Wellman. And today is the official second little kickoff of our Women of the World series of season 2. And today we have a really special guest on, a longtime friend and someone that I constantly find inspiration from, and just a boss lady who literally creates anything with her hands from way back in the day, always reminiscing on like, wow, I wish I could do that. She just got it so easy. And so without further ado, we have a fiber and fashion designer and owner of Upcycled Hippie, Jessica Lou Shields. Hey Jess, how are you doing today?
Hey, I am doing great. I'm so happy to be a part of this. Like I was telling you before, was listening or have been listening to your podcast, and so many of the topics that you have talked about just really hit close to home for me more than I even realized. Like a lot of the things, I was like, oh, maybe that is literally the same exact thing for me, and I've never realized until just now hearing somebody else explain it. So I really feel like this is going to be just a good conversation to bounce those similar thoughts back and forth. I'm excited.
Heck yeah, I love that. That is honestly the story of my life. Like, it's when you hear those certain stories, you're like, okay, yeah, like I get it, but then you're like laying in bed and you're like, holy shit, I get it.
Yeah, wait, I get it way more than I thought I actually got it.
Yeah, it's like you embody it in a whole new way.
Yeah.
Gosh, well, I am so stoked. When you said yes, I was just like, yes, praise the Lord, because it's just been literally like you weaving together from scraps of old and used clothes and just your inspiration through your own company, what you wanted to do, what you wanted to create and build, and watching you from the get-go, just starting that. I mean, what was that, like 5 years ago, 4 years ago now you started?
Well, I'm trying to think. Let's see. We graduated in 2015, and I didn't really start really making stuff until around 2017, probably.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was around my second year at Bay when I was just going to community college and stayed home still. I didn't leave yet.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when I really started making stuff, but I didn't actually do it constantly all day, every day for a thing until just a year ago, actually.
Wow. And yeah, let's run straight into it. How did you even figure out that design and fashion is where you wanted, or like where your passion was driving to? How'd you come to that conclusion?
So I guess growing up, I've always that was kind of the fun thing that me and my sister and my mom had a little baby daycare sitting thing at our house. So we'd have all the neighbor kids come over, and we'd always have fashion shows and just play dress up and literally record ourselves like we were making music videos, but it was just us strutting our stuff through our kitchen in different costumes that we had. So I guess that sort of looking back really got me in the mindset of oh, I can play dress up all the time, or I can make these clothes and literally dress up for the rest of my life and do that. But in high school, I took a class over at the ISD, and it was a business planning class. And I remember building an actual business plan and saying I'm going to use this one day, thinking I would actually use it. But then it was just I thought I was going to tie-dye shit and just that was going to be my thing, tie-dyeing everything and anything. And so for a while there, I was like, oh yeah, I could do that, because I was tie-dyeing for a while. And then I guess I've kind of gone through different spurts of creativity, or thinking oh yeah, that's what I'm going to do. But it's always been something within the arts, or I've never was I definitely want to be a math magician, or anything wild out there. It's always been art. So I did my first 2 years at Bay, and when I went to Bay, I was Like, I sort of settled for graphic design because, like I said, growing up, I had always like had that vision of like some sort of clothing. Like, it always revolved around clothing, and I had always loved clothing. But everybody would always say like, oh, well, you're gonna have to move to New York City or like somewhere big, otherwise you're never gonna be able to be a fashion designer. So like a lot of people kind of crushed my dreams growing up when I would tell them like I wanted to be a fashion designer. And I kind of just took that in. I was like, okay, well, if everybody says it, must be true. So I'm just gonna go for graphic design because I didn't want to have to leave everybody and anything I knew and go to like this big city, and just seemed like way too much for me. So I was doing graphic design, and then once my last year at Bay came, which was 2017, I was touring colleges with my professor, and we had went to the Kendall College of Art and Design downstate, and I had seen the fashion program, which they had an amazing one, and they had an exhibit out, and I just fell in love with like this collection of clothes and all of the, like, I just was so inspired by all of the collections that I saw there and everything revolving around the fashion. And then we got to the graphic design floor, and I was like, I don't even like this stuff. Like, I cannot do this. Like, if I'm saying I'm going down the graphic design field, I have to like actually love it and be passionate about it. And it was just more so something fun for me. Like, I like designing and I like doing all different types of stuff, but I never was drawn to anything as much as I was in that one moment when I saw like the actual fashion program, because I was never exposed to a fashion program before. I had never seen anything like that. It was always just the sort of basics. And I'm not saying graphic design is basic or boring. I give props to anyone that does it because it is a lot of work, but it's just not for me. And so I guess that was the moment I really knew I had to be a fashion designer. And from that point on, I sort of just put my heart and soul into it, and everything kind of fell into place perfectly after that, I guess.
Wow.
I guess I could keep going. I could honestly talk like for a lot longer than I thought I could.
Please, yeah, honestly, no time limit on it because I didn't know half of that. That's amazing. I
I
never.
know I don't ever talk about it, and because I'm so bad at like expressing my words and just getting what's in my head out, because I go to say it and then it's like, oh, but this thought and that thought, and then everything just too much. So then it's, but yeah, I mean, a lot of people have asked me that, so I've gotten to realize that answer pretty good. Like, I know that that was the moment I've realized for sure.
That's so incredible. I love the fact that you say like everyone told you otherwise, like, if you're a fashion designer, you have to go to New York, you have to do this. Like how preconceived that notion was of you have to follow this path or else it's never gonna work. Like, excuse,
Exactly.
sit down, watch out, watch me. I will have my own flair on this. You suck. Like, oh my gosh, I love that. That just it proves like if anyone is listening and you don't know where Escanaba, Michigan is, it's a pretty small town. Is the population much more than what 15-20,000 now?
Honestly, couldn't even give you a rough guess because I have no idea, but it's tiny,
Yeah. It's not the
probably
biggest
compared to wherever
yeah.
whoever's listening.
Yeah, not the biggest place, and really quaint, beautiful. It's the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. So when people think of Michigan, they throw up that bottom hand. They're like, Detroit. And you're like, actually, it's about 8 hours north over a bridge and then
Right.
another 3 hours. So it's the middle of nowhere, but it's beautiful. And what Jess has gone and created with her company, Upcycled Hippie, check it out on Instagram if you don't know what we're talking about. And like literally take something that has never been done in that area and thrive off of it. I mean, I think that you and your husband, Mike, you've both been killing it with your two different brands. How I
Yeah,
gotta ask
thank
this
you.
real quick. How is it working with your husband so closely but so differently? What's that flow like for you guys?
So To a lot of people, when I say like me and my husband own a business, they're probably like, whoa, you like literally live with that guy, you work with that guy, like, but it's actually nowhere near that because we have the retail shop downtown and I now run that, and I'm here because my studio is in the shop, and Mike's production shop where he does his screen printing is in a completely different building. So we actually never work together unless we're like working on a big bulk business order for him. And that's just like bringing the heat press here and I'll do half the order and then he'll go do the other half. So it's really not a whole lot unless I'm just helping him. So that works out pretty good because otherwise it's like the only part that sometimes could become an issue is like when we have to discuss like getting certain things done on certain times because I'm the one at the shop. And so he's responsible for getting those products done. But as far as like, besides all of the actual business side, the creative part has been great because our brands have really meshed together pretty good now that we're in our new shop. And I guess I should probably rewind a little bit. For those that don't really know me here on this podcast, I did go to, so I've always been from Escanaba. My husband, Mike, has always been from Escanaba. And for my last 2 years of schooling, I moved to Houghton. And so that was my first time ever really being on my own or anything. And I think it was honestly the best thing that could have happened for me because before then, I never really had to do a whole lot for myself. And I know that sounds like terrible. And looking back, like it was great. I loved it. It was awesome, like having my parents so hands-on and just like doing whatever, whenever I needed it. And I guess in the long run, it sort of hurt me because then once I was by myself, I did have to like learn to fend on my own and like use all of those resources that I had. And a lot of the time, I mean, anybody that has gone to college or is just, I guess, going into adulthood knows that it's not easy financially. And so I used every last bit that I had and I got really good at like using those scarcities or like working with those scarcities. And not to get too like off topic, but I'm talking as far as like using every little bit of food that I had, and it was almost like a fun little game for me. And so after like just doing that and like getting in the routine of like using everything and not like wasting everything, it sort of trickled into my fiber art. And that's when I really started this sort of zero waste journey, you could call it. That's what a lot of people call it, when you literally use every last bit of your fabric and you don't throw anything away. And so I started saving literally every little thread and every little piece of fabric. If you could see how many bins of scraps and thread I have that are not usable for anything, but I have found ways to use them because I've gotten to the point where it's like, I feel absolutely terrible if I throw away anything now. So because there's always something you can use it for. For example, I use all my little thread scraps and thread or materials for stuffing because then I don't have to go buy stuffing, and it's a more sustainable alternative also.
That's awesome. I love that. Honestly, when I was back in Michigan this summer and I stopped in the shop a couple times, I was always impressed with just how quickly you could figure out what you were going to do and how you were going to incorporate like whatever you were going to create. But like my example is like the mask. Like you were like, all right, pick out some scraps and I'm going to just throw it together and boom. And 5 minutes later, I had this like beautiful little multicolored mask with some yellow and some flowers and whatnot. And how unique, like that's to me.
Yes, and that's what I love. I love doing that because it's like, to me, honestly, it took me a while to get to that point, obviously, because I didn't just come out of the womb knowing how to sew and do everything like off the top of my head. Mm-hmm. And so I love when people like come to me and they're like, oh, I have this hole in my jeans. Can you please repair it? And I'm like, yes, please, let me help you. I will do this. It'll be pretty again. I love taking old things and making them into something new. Because I believe that everything should be unique and one of a kind, because I am so sick of the carbon copies of everything and just all of that everywhere in this world.
Yes, we need a lot less fast fashion. I have like devoted some of my life to that where I stopped
Mhm.
buying from certain companies. I won't go to stores. I won't go in a mall anymore unless like obviously I need to go get something particular, but I think Dan and I have most of our wardrobe from the thrift store. And that's
Oh,
even like company.
literally, my entire wardrobe, if it's not from somebody that's made it or I have made it, it's 100% from Goodwill or St. Benny's, wherever the nearest thrift store.
Hmm. And it's so much better. And I love that like you're whenever you do this, you literally take like someone's old story. Like they dropped off this shirt at this Goodwill, like they aren't thinking about it, whatever, but you find it and you see value in it and you see, wow, like I could use this for this or 100 other things, and then you bring it with, and then you like with your flannels. I love your flannel collection. It's
That's my
so
biggest
clever.
thing.
Yeah, and like taking those old stories and whoever who knows, like that person could have worked in that shirt, or they could have made some love in that shirt, or they could have nice cookies in that shirt, like whatever it was.
Exactly. It's literally like the same way that we build our identities to me almost. And that's why it's like all of my pieces are one of a kind, just like all of us are one of a kind. And so, in order to find that authentic self, you have to sort of take pieces from other people and, like, oh, I like that aspect of them. I can become that aspect. Or, same thing as far as like, so when you're building a flannel, like you said, you need all those different connections or all those different pieces to make the whole. And that's what I thrive off of, is making that, all those, the little pieces into one whole and just intertwining them all, whether it is through clothing or even better, actually weaving it through a tapestry.
Gosh, I love that. I like how you said that because honestly, like even now more than ever, we're in such a weird time where it's like, okay, I can be my own person, I can take care of myself, and I can do all these things. But then there's so many different parts of us. We have our family and those friends and those random strangers we see, but spark up a conversation. And I mean, if you just open up that observation side of yourself and you're able to look at anything, everything as an opportunity to, yeah, like you said, take or like pick and choose, like, hey, I really resonate with that. That's really badass. Like, I'm going to take that and like intertwine it into my own day. I absolutely think that that is something we need a lot more of, or that we need to remember that it's not a bad thing. I feel like even growing up, how silly it is, but like you'd grow up and you'd go out and you'd buy this new thing and then someone else would buy it and you'd be like, oh, now they have it. This is bad.
Yeah.
I hate it now. This is lame. Like, why don't we see that as a compliment and be like,
Right.
oh, like awesome. Like I support that too. Like let's hang out more. Let's talk about this. Like why do you like this and what this is why I like it. And I think if we could just all come
Yeah, share
together.
the commonalities.
Exactly. I just love that. How in your business with that, especially like what's your personal favorite method of taking and creating? Like what's your favorite thing to make that you currently do?
Oh God. See, I often get asked, like, I get asked that question or similar questions like that a lot. And it's really hard for me to choose because honestly, like, the only thing that I repeated, like, make more than just once is the flannels.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wouldn't, although I do really, really enjoy the flannels and everybody else enjoys the flannels, they're not my favorite thing to make. It's probably the weavings for me because there's really just, it's almost like meditating for me because I don't know, I just get in such a rhythm of just doing the same thing over and over again, and I just focus right on that because you have to think about, like, going over one, going under one. So I can't really think about other things while I'm doing that. Whereas when I'm sewing, I've gotten so used to just like, I know how my sewing machine works, everything, every little button, I can do it closing my eyes. So I can think about other things while I'm sewing. But when I'm weaving, it's sort of like my relaxation.
Ooh, I like that. You're so present in that moment with yourself.
Yeah.
Is that a way that you bring in stillness into your day? Is like, would you say that?
Literally, yeah, that's probably one of my, well, in the workplace at least. When I'm like just frustrated or like am having a bad day or I don't really want to do anything, I'll do a weaving because it doesn't feel like work for me. It's just like, it's like reading a book for other people probably because I don't really read books. So I go to weaving.
Oh, that's such a good analogy. I love that so much. I'm honored to have this conversation because you've literally have proved to people that like if you follow your passion and you follow what fuels you and drives you and makes you just feel good, like yeah, I'm having a bad day, I can still get this work done, but it's because it's enjoyable and because I love it and because no one else is telling me what I have to do, when I have to do it, blah blah blah, and you're just
Exactly.
that's so nice. What is the biggest perk of being your own business owner? What would you say about it?
I definitely love the fact that I can make my own schedule. I know that's a really cliche answer, and that's what most people would probably say, but honestly, just being able to, like, since I am literally the one that owns the shop, if I have to run an errand that day during the middle of the day, I can do that because I am able to just do it quick and put up a sign and come back. Like, it's not like anybody's telling me, no, you can't do that. So I'm a lot less stressed in the rest of my life because I'm able to do things when I need to do them now, rather than like, oh, I have to call off of work and see if I could get that day off, or I have to do everything on the day that I have that day off. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And that's a really big one for me. Um, yeah, I got sidetracked there for a second though.
That was good. That was that was awesome. Gosh. What as we continue down on this, what where just tell us like what are your services? Where can we find you? Like what do you provide? And let me have you talk about your little work with a shop in Ohio. I want to know more about that because I only briefly read
Yeah.
some
So
gloat about
so right now, the main place to shop for my items, if you're not from Escanaba, would be on my Etsy. And you can either find that through my Instagram, through my Facebook, or just going right on Etsy. And so now I actually have this new thing on Instagram and Etsy where I have like an Etsy or an shoot, I keep saying Etsy. I meant Instagram and Facebook. I have their own shops now. And so if you just have those, you can sort of just go onto my Instagram page, view my shop, and then it'll direct you to my Etsy because I never realized that I was talking to one of my friends and she had said she wanted to buy something off of Etsy, but she didn't have an Etsy, so she thought that she couldn't purchase things off of Etsy. And I guess I just assumed that other people thought like, or just knew that you could get, like, you don't have to have an Etsy or anything, like guests can go and buy stuff. So my Instagram is just Upcycled Hippie, UPCYCLEDHIPPIE. But then my Etsy, if you type it in, Upcycled Hippie was already taken. So I had to add an extra E on the end. So it's Upcycled Hippie with 2 E's if you search it on Etsy. But like I said, if you go to either my Instagram and Facebook, which are the same, there is a direct link to my Etsy page on there. So that's probably the easiest way to find it.
Excellent. Heck yeah.
Oh, and then you wanted to know about the shop in Ohio.
Yes.
So yeah, a lot of the time, like I try to preach to people. I know not everybody can like always afford to purchase things from small businesses. Sometimes, oftentimes, they are more than like your average store would be to buy something. But supporting small businesses doesn't always mean purchasing it. Like you can just a simple like or a share on Facebook or Instagram, whatever it may be. Like even that just helps to motivate like whoever the maker is to just keep making stuff because it shows them that people care and they enjoy it. And so I have been sharing all of my posts. My main thing is Instagram. I'm pretty much just post everything on Instagram and then it automatically goes to my Facebook. I don't really necessarily put as much time into Facebook, so Instagram's my main thing, like I said. And I had been posting about the flannels that I make, and somebody, random person, I don't even necessarily know her. I think she may know my mom, but she has shared one of my posts about my flannels. And then, I don't know, it was probably a week after or something, I had a random message from somebody on Facebook, and it was just her explaining like how she had known about the UP. She has a cousin here, and she had seen my flannels on Facebook and wanted to sell them in this shop that she had. She was telling me all about, there's this like antique village mall. It has hundreds of stores. I don't even know how many she said, but it was like, it's a pretty big place. It's in Cedarville or somewhere close to Dayton, Ohio. That's where I shipped the shirts out to, was Dayton, Ohio. And so she owns 2 booths. You rent out booths within this mall, sort of like a giant craft store that just like is continual. It's not just one weekend. It's just a all the time craft show. And so she has 2 different booths, and she had asked me to make her a batch of flannels. So she had gotten 6 flannels, and she didn't ask for any like specific colors or anything. So that I got to sort of have my own freedom of creativity in that realm. She just wanted certain sizes. And so, yeah, I had mailed those out, and she loved them, just got them. And well, she got them a while ago now, it was. But she said, now that the holidays are coming up, she's hoping that those will sell, and then she's going to get more once those sell out. So it's kind of like I formed this business or wait, what would it be called?
Like a collaboration almost.
Yeah, so it was just my outsource to her. So now I can reach people from even farther out into the world. And Etsy's a really, really good one for that, because I've noticed now that I've sold, I'm not trying to brag. I am not one to brag about myself, but
Right,
I am like 1 sale away from 50 sales on Etsy. And I am just like, I know 50 doesn't sound like a lot, but I've only had my Etsy shop for like a year now. And I've heard that it's hard to get it like going. But what I was saying or getting at was, I've noticed that a lot of my Etsy buyers have been from like random places and people that I don't know. So it is really working, and it's helping to get my name out to all these different people that aren't just from the UP and everywhere that I know already. That's been great.
That's so awesome. One, I'm so happy to hear that. I love sharing sharing Upcycled Hippie as much as I can. Because, yeah, it's so worth it. Small business, when you can support it, do it. Because when we just put our money towards these fast fashions and these big companies, who is really benefiting? I mean,
Exactly. Yeah.
it's just more wholesome, too, to be able to be like, yeah, I just went out of my way to do that. I feel better about it. It's going to help someone with a smaller corporation, so to say, or business. And we all just win.
Right. And speaking of fast fashion, it's not even like I was saying before, it's that exact carbon copy of one another. Nothing is unique. They are just making the same product and mass producing it because that's what they're telling people is in right now. So that's what everybody's going to buy.
Yeah.
But the thing is, they are constantly making new styles now, and it's not just the 4 seasons. There's literally like 52 seasons in a year for fashion now, and it's just ridiculous, like absolutely absurd. And it's all poorly made. And honestly, I don't know about, I'm sure if like you can relate to this, when you buy something that is handmade or from somebody that you know had like put so much love into it or so much time, I always like, I can feel it when I wear that clothing. Like I could feel the love that was put into it, because I guess, I don't know if it's just I get happy because I know it was handmade, and everything handmade just makes me happy, or if it's like literally I know that it's quality and it's not just cheap and gonna fall apart on me in a month. And so that makes me happy about like supporting other actual makers.
100%. And yes, the energy. I mean, if it's this energy that is not present and totally dull, no life force, like just blah, 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 we're not going to pay this person enough money for what they're doing, but we'll make thousands of them, and then everyone will look the same and find this like comfort in being the same, because we don't want to be expressing our opinions, because if we express our opinion, then people will judge us for it. And no. We got to like slowly reconstruct that thought and be like, wow, I have the opportunity to go out, buy something that's so unique, and you feel that love and the hard work and the sweat and the creativity and the expression of it. And then you get to share it with people. And then it just trickles into this whole new positive flow of living. That's really how I.
Yes, and that's, I love that part too, just sharing like, oh yeah, if somebody compliments me on like something, it's like, oh yeah, I got it from this person, and it's handmade and it's hand dyed and it's made from this and that. And they don't care, but I'm like, yes, go get some.
Yeah, and just like preach that the sustainability and the, gosh, just the more mindfulness practice that is behind it. It's so critical in these days, and that's what I love. And I'm so happy that you have been able to come on and express all this, and for people to hear about a small business that's one woman owned, which is badass, and supports just a cleaner way for our earth to continue to go, because this is only paving the way for future artists. And
Yeah.
as an artist, what is your biggest tip as we begin to wind down this podcast? What is some motivation that you could give someone who is on the fence of following their dreams, following that truest, highest, authentic self, and going for that thing that people are like, you're gonna fail. What are you thinking? And like, what are some words that you would tell them to push them in the right direction? Or not the right direction, but in the more positive direction?
My biggest thing would have to be, you have to get really good at being your own cheerleader. You have to be your biggest fan, and you have to always be able to motivate yourself, because oftentimes I get caught up in the chaos of everything that's going around me, and I just think to myself, wow, maybe it would be much simpler if I had a 9-to-5 job, and then I wouldn't have to have everything literally on my plate, like my entire living just like up to me. Like I could put that on to somebody else and just go make money, be less stressful. But then I'm pretty good at taking a step back and realizing like literally this is the life I had always wanted. This is the life I want. Like I would not want any other life. And so just reminding myself that, and trying to keep that positive mindset as far as like when those negative thoughts come in, as far as like, oh wow, how are you going to survive literally making a living just doing this the rest of your life? But I have already made it now. So taking a couple steps back here.
Mm-hmm.
I did not just go into being a full-time artist and like, oh yeah, I got it, we're good, let's roll with it. Mm-hmm. I had to have, and as probably almost every artist does, like a side job to begin with. And I had worked at Joann Fabrics when I first moved back from college. And I was there for about a year, and I didn't enjoy it, but it was sort of like I was just getting on like my feet into the ground as far as like doing this whole business thing and just only doing that. And so I knew that in order to get that started, I had to have like some sort of income and not just only rely on what Mike was taking in. And so after the whole pandemic thing happened, Joann Fabrics had closed. And so it was kind of like, oh, sad, but yay, now I can finally literally just do what I want to do. And so although it wasn't like the best thing, and it was a sort of grayish transition, it wasn't the best, but I ended up pushing through. And honestly, that's when my business, like my Etsy sort of took off, because it's sort of like, at least I feel like once one person purchased things, then people saw like, oh, okay, it's legit. Now other people started purchasing things. And then it just kind of has been consistent. So I've been very grateful for that, for sure, having my Etsy, because having our store downtown during a pandemic has not been the greatest, as far as like people still don't always want to leave their house. But now I'm getting off track again and going back to being an artist. I guess like I said, it's really a mindset to make that dream a reality when you're an artist. Being at school, it was really easy to be motivated because I had my teachers like giving me assignments to do and then giving me feedback on everything I would do. So then, of course, I had my husband, Mike, and my family and friends to like give me feedback every now and then, but it's not like I was making something, bringing it to them, and them telling me like, oh yeah, it's great, keep going, whatever. I sort of had to take that role and start telling myself like, you're doing good, you can keep doing this, and you are gonna keep doing this. And so pushing through that negative mindset of not thinking I'd be able to do it, because for the longest time after or leading up to graduation, I would tell people like, oh yeah, my husband has a store downtown, he's owned for however many years, he does screen printing, and when I move back, I'm gonna like swoop on in and I'm gonna have the store and sell my stuff and make it. But like in the back of my head, I didn't truly believe that I'd ever be able to like fill a store with all of my stuff and just make things every single day. But now, literally within this past year, that's what I've been doing, is just making things every single day. And now it's probably been about 6 months I've been doing like full-time artist, fashion designer, fiber artist. Like this is all I do now. So this is my well-being, besides, of course, Michael, but for myself, like it's possible and you can do it. It's challenging. There is a lot of stuff behind the scenes that I'm still learning. Like I don't have any employees that help me. I don't have little assistants. I have to be my own model. I take pictures in my products of myself, and I have to get myself up, get myself to work every day. Even though I am the one that's choosing this, it can still be hard, but it's worth it every single day for sure.
I needed to hear that because I feel you on thank you so much for that. Those words. I hope
I didn't ramble too much. I
No,
feel like sometimes I ramble and just repeat the same thing.
No, but I mean, you really reiterated, like, you have to be consistent and you have to remember, like, be easy with yourself, be gentle with yourself, because every day is going to be different. Every day it's you. Like, you have to make those choices. You have to choose. Like, I can be in a shitty mood and not want to do this and say, frick it, like this isn't gonna work out and I'm gonna go work at that 9 to 5 I hate. Or I can get up, remember what I'm grateful for, be positive, and just chew off little bites at a time and see those small moments as the big victories, because any little victory is a victory versus like
Mm-hmm.
how we believe that we have failures and such. But it's also like the consistency of being your own cheerleader. That is the biggest thing that even with myself, like getting into podcasting and being a little bit more vocal on my different platforms, that has been huge. Like anytime someone does go out of their way and be like, hey, this really impacted my life, like this inspired me, or they come to me with a question, or whenever they do, like follow up with when I reach out and invite people to be like, hey, if you need someone, like come to me, I got you. And when they do that, it just makes you feel like, okay, I'm on my path. I'm doing
Yes, you are doing something right.
exactly, because yeah, no one is gonna just sit around and go, good job, you
Exactly. Yeah. Who's gonna be the one to be like every single time, wow, keep it up.
yeah.
You got this, girl.
Yes, and so it's like you grow up and you realize all those cliche sayings that were hung around in mom and grandma's house are really true. Like, like they honestly knew what was going on.
Uh-huh.
Gosh, I love that. That's amazing. Well, I think that is a great note to leave off on, to say that if we can just stay playful and curious about the creations and let them unfold exactly as they do, we'll see those synchronicities begin to come into our lives to be like, hey, you're on the path. Like, hey,
Mm-hmm.
you're doing it. You got this. So thank you so much, Jess. Is there anything else that you'd like to say or announce before we head out?
I don't think so. I had a great time. This was such a good talk, honestly.
Yeah.
I really appreciate you asking me to be on this.
Yes. Thank you for being the first of the series to pave the way and be on
Whoop,
here.
whoop.
This has been amazing, and I'm so grateful to have watched your whole process. So you guys, seriously, if you can, if you want to be really badass, go be that 50th sale for Jess on Etsy, because why
Woo, who's it gonna be?
woo woo! Upcycled Hippie with 2 E's for her Etsy and 1 E at the end of that for Instagram. Go check her out. I'll link that down in the notes below. And I really hope this helped open up your eyes today to any listeners that have been on the fence about following their dreams, or realizing like you're stuck and you're just not sure if you want to push through and make that reality a reality, like your dreams a reality, or if you just want to meander through life and kind of walk slow and not really feel fulfilled. I mean, one does sound a little bit more pleasant than the other, in my opinion. So I hope that this has spoken to someone out there and has given you that fuel for your own life force to follow your passions. Without further ado, I hope everyone has a great day. Thanks for listening to Incredibelle Conversations, and make sure to share this with anyone and everyone you know and love, because it's going to help us get rid of the fast fashion and really support the small local businesses and also boss lady bitches. So, thank you guys, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye.
Bye.